First thing we're going to do is we're going to pin the side panel onto the back like this, and we're going to serge along this edge. If you don't have a serger, you can use a zigzag stitch to overlock the edge, and a straight stretch stitch, just above it. Once you have overlocked this edge, we're going to open it up, and we are going to top stitch with either a zigzag or if your overlocker does a top stitch, you can use that. Decorative stretch stitch, I'm using a zigzag stitch, the kind that's made up of the 3 dots. I find that works best for my machine. I do definitely recommend playing around a little bit with your settings on some scrap fabric first. So you can see, so top stitch this down and come back in a minute. So now that you've done the decorative zigzag stitch, you should have 2 pieces that look something like this. And we're going to put them together. We're going to sew the back seat curve. I'm going to serge it along here. And I should point out as well that I am using my serger with 4 threads. Sometimes for certain things you can use 3, but I'm using 4. And just a regular serge. Top of your pants should now look something like this. So we're just going to zigzag, or whatever decorative stitch you use, along this seat curve next. Now that we've gone and sewn the seat curve, we're going to take our yoke piece and we are going to pin that on all the way along this side, or all the way around. So I've eased my pins in all the way along. First I put the pin in the middle, and then I pin the edges and around the curve. So I'm going to really slowly and carefully serge this all the way along, and just serging a little bit, take out my pin, serge a little bit, take out my pin. Now we are going to pin the outseam here to the side panel piece. So you want to pin that on each side, and just make sure that you have it correctly. You need this curve pointing in here. So this is right sides together here, pointing this way. So pin it along from here to here where your notch is, and then from here to the top where it's a little bit curved on both sides. Now that that's pinned on both sides, I am going to serge it on both sides, and we're going to do the same thing where we'll do our decorative stretch top stitch. So once you've got your decorative stretch stitch on the side, the front, I'm going to match it up here and pin it up and match up your notches. So it should look like this. I'm going to sew the inseam from the notch down. I'm going to serge it and top stitch it as usual. So now that I am zigzagging the top stitch, I'm doing the top stitching on the inseam here. I just wanted to show you it's a little tricky. I started at the top, like at the hip area, and I'm going down to the bottom where we'll eventually hem it. So I'm just showing you like how it's kind of bunched up here, like this part of sewn in behind This is part of sewn in behind. And then I'm just very carefully and slowly come to the bottom here. And you just want to smooth it out, and you can just feel here to make sure that you're not catching any fabric that you don't want to be. So now that I've sewn the inseam and top stitch it down there, we're going to match up the front crotch curve. So I'm going to flip it inside out. I'm going to serge our stitch along this edge. Okay, so now I'm just pinning and notching the gusset in right sides to right sides. So you're just going to need to ease it in where you need to, and just make sure that everything is just pinned really well. And we're going to now carefully stitch all the way around. So when you go to serge or sew this on, I'm going to serge it, but it might be easier to sew it and then serge it, just because it's a little tricky to go around the curves. And don't serge your pins, whatever you do. So to make it a little bit easier, I sewed along one edge and now I'm doing the other edge. You just sew this whatever way is easiest for you. So when you look at it from the top, you want to make sure that you don't have any holes. That'd be bad. And we're going to top stitch it with the seam allowance going out this way, so it lays flat. It lays flat. Next we have the waistband. So we are going to take it and fold it right sides together like this and just serge or stitch along this edge. Okay, so now we have the rectangle for the pocket. So we're going to fold it in half like this and leave it one edge about 1 centimeter lower than the other edge. I'm just going to clip this real quick on each side, and I'm just going to serge it. Now you're going to take your pocket and we're going to put it on the front, aligning your notches. And so we want this opening to be this way. Okay, now just do a stitch along here. Now we're going to flip it in there. So it looks like that. And we're going to trim the seam, like do a tiny, tiny snip in the seam allowance right there. Okay. Now I'm going to take the waistband. So it's like this. So we're going to fold it in half. Okay, like this. When you get to the little pocket, so this should be folded in like that. So we're going to take this edge and make that line up here with these 3 layers. And really take your time going along here. I don't think I'm going to serge this all. I think I am going to machine sew this part on before I go and serge all the way around. because I think it will just be way easier that way. I've zigged that in place, and now I've pushed the pocket bag back inside, so I'm going to I'm going to serge back over where this was and go over here and all the way around and back. Now that the pocket's back in here, the waistband's almost done. We're going to top stitch all the way around and fold the seam allowance down. And when you get to the pocket here, I think I'm going to top stitch mine here because otherwise I have like some little corners that are going to poke out, and that way I can keep that tucked down and nice and neat. So for the hem, you want to serge the edge if you have a serger, and top stitch, or if you have a double needle, this is a good spot to use it. My machine isn't compatible with a double needle, otherwise that would have been my first choice.